Welcome back to episode 5 of the Lincolnshire podcast show with your presenters, Simon Noden, Pete Richardson, and myself, Christopher Watkin. We are all Lincolnshire Freemasons, and each week we bring on the great and good of Lincolnshire Freemasonry and grill them and ask them questions that you don't normally ask, or because probably you're not at the same table, or you don't get a chance to talk to them. And this week, we are blessed with the presence of Mr. Simon Butler from one of the Grantham lodges. Now, Simon is very, very well known amongst the Lincolnshire province. Yeah, he's probably spoken at you because he's very good at talking. And if you can get a word in edgeways, you're doing absolutely well. But you mention his name around Lincolnshire and people do light up. He lights up the room. And Simon Butler, thank you for joining us today. You are an absolute star of a Freemason, and more importantly, you're a star of a top bloke as well. So thank you for joining us this evening, Simon.
Nice to be with you.
Bless you. Right. Well, Simon, if you don't mind, we'd like to spend probably 20 minutes just finding out how you got into Freemasonry, where you are in Freemasonry at the moment in terms of the jobs you're doing, and then where you see the future of Freemasonry in the future, so you can help the brothers and anyone who's thinking of becoming a Freemason on their journey. Is that okay, Simon?
I'll have a go.
Good stuff. So, Pete, I'd like you to talk to Simon about his past experiences and his initial involvement in Freemasonry. So off you go, Pete. Off you go.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, hi, Simon. So, so my first question really is, what initially drew you into Freemasonry, and how did you first become involved?
Through my father. Actually, my father was a Freemason. I think he came in, I would guess, about mid-60s. He got in the chair, and my brother and I were in business together. My brother was, if anything, probably keener to join than me. Then something happened within the business. My brother moved area. Believe it or not, his name was S. Butler and mine was, and it really was quite a case of changed the paperwork very quickly from the application form from Stephen Butler to Simon Butler when my father was in the chair. So I actually was initiated by my father when he was in the chair in '85.
Great. So obviously reflecting on early days as a Freemason, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you kind of navigate through them to obviously where you are now?
It was all, I think it was all inspired by some of the senior brethren, but I was very nervous. A lot of these older guys, what we a lot of us call now tutters, the dark blues. I mean, they were a bit stick in the mud in those days. I'm glad to say they've improved tremendously. But let's just say you were under pressure to. Well, I thought I was under pressure to perform and do ritual very well, but I found in time it's not all about ritual. You don't have to be the best ritual, the best educated person to become a Mason. It helps with some of the ritual, but there's plenty of smaller jobs that people can cope with. And I was one that didn't find ritual that easy, but I suddenly went through a lot of offices. I mean, in my lodge, which takes a bit of believing, but it took me 19 years to go through the chair. My first job was assistant to Tyler. Wow. And then I became, which you learn a bit, believe it or not, and then I was assistant secretary, which meant I was I would say probably what you call I suppose in those days, envelope licker and a stamp licker. And then I had to write up the minutes as well, because the secretary said, there's a job for you, you can write up the minutes. I had to read the minutes out, which was terribly frightening. As a guy at the time, I was about 30. And then I had 6 years stewarding before I came chief steward. And then when I became chief steward, I was getting a bit more confidence. And the master said, you can choose the menu. I remember him saying that to me. He said, you can choose the menu, but just make sure I get up custom with everything, and you can choose the menu. And just pin me up against the wall. And after that, I sort of then went to Inner Guard and got a lot more confidence. And as you do, as you go along. Junior deacon, that gives you a tremendous amount of confidence. You get to know people. Well, you get to know a lot of people through chief steward. Anyway, ask us another. Sorry.
Ask you another. Yeah. So how has your perception of Freemasonry changed?
Sorry, say it again. Sorry, I didn't catch what you said for a start. What was, sorry, a question again.
Sorry. How has your I can't even spell it myself now, perception of Freemasonry changed from when you first joined to now? Obviously how it's involved and
tremendously for the better. We're all a lot more appreciative young guys coming in, and I believe we give them more of a chance and give a lot of help to young guys. I mean, we've had some. I'm just thinking in my own lodge at the moment. One of the couple of lads on the way up. One's a really highly qualified solicitor who is bright as a button. Then we've got another guy who's not quite sure what he does actually, but he's got no confidence at all. But they've both got places, both got a tremendous amount to give in different ways. And years ago, I don't know what to say. Let's just say, I think we're just judged on how good you were at ritual. But I think nowadays there's a lot. We give people a lot more freedom to express themselves in different ways now. I hope that answers your question, does it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So looking back, what advice would you give yourself as a younger you, starting into Freemasonry? And what, for anybody joining Freemasonry now, what kind of advice could you give?
I would say once you're in, if that's what you mean, once you're in, hopefully you've got a good mentor, and listen to particularly the guys who are on the ladder in front of you, really. It's always interesting to pick up a bit of information from the dark blues, if you like, some of the older guys. But I would certainly say better to listen to mentors and the DC of the lodge, who are always there to give you advice and help.
Good stuff. Thank you, Pete, for those. What I'd like to do now is just do a brief interlude, and we'll go and see Pete Tong, where he spends a couple of minutes talking, because he is the provincial charity steward, and he's going to tell us in no more than 3 minutes how he has seen the charitable giving, which is an important part of Freemasonry, change over the last 25 years. So let's go and have a look at that right now. Joined today by Pete Tong, who is the brilliant provincial charity steward. And you've been boss man of charity in Lincolnshire Freemasonry for many years. And I know you've been in Masonry a quarter of a century. How has charity and giving to charity changed over that time from your point of view?
Oh, tremendously. I remember when I first came in, my first evening, the charity steward thrust in my hand a piece of paper and he said, "Fill that out." So I said, "What's this?" "It's your standing order." So I filled it out, handed it to him, and nothing happened. Nothing went out of my bank. And when we had the festival, I remember sitting at the festive board, and the worshipful master said, "Brethren," he said, "we're in festival." So I said to the guy sat next to me, I said, what do you mean we're in festival? What's all this mean?
It's a party, isn't it? Or
a party, exactly,
yeah, I love
yes.
Parties.
I had visions of balloons and jellies and all that. And he said, he said, "We just raise a bit more money." I said, "What for?" "Well, it all depends." He says, "I think it's a children's home." He said, ask the charity steward. So I went to the charity steward at the next meeting. I said, "What do you want from me for this festival?" "I'm busy now. I'll speak to you later." 25 years later, I'm still waiting for that conversation. But how have we changed? It's brilliant now, isn't it? We've got Stuart Pearce's Masonic links. We've got a fantastic website. We sent booklets out to everybody. We made sure everybody knew what the festival was and what we stood for. And charity now, I don't think charity is not the kind of word that was talked about in hushed tones. We talk openly about charity. We talk openly about charity in lodges, and people are pleased to support it. And our attitude now is, we're not asking you to give a lot of money. Give what you can. Just, if it's a quid, that's all that matters. And so I think the whole attitude about charity has changed.
You've been provincial
charity steward now for 5 years. Looking back on those 5 years, what have you achieved for the province, and what have the lads in the lodges achieved for themselves?
I think you've hit it there when you say the lads. I'm part of a team. I mean, all I do is I lead a brilliant team. I have a deputy, I have 3 assistants, and I have 5 area coordinators who support a brilliant team of charity stewards. And they are the ones that do the work, not me. Yeah, okay, so I do have a responsible role, and I'm responsible for a lot of things. But it's the charity stewards and the brethren that are making this work.
What would your message be to all those hard-working charity stewards? Because I know in my lodge, he works tirelessly.
Yeah.
For cracking that whip.
He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. My message to them is thank you. We wouldn't be where we are now if it weren't for the charity stewards and their hard work. It's not just about going up to guys and saying, I want some money. Those days have gone. It's about encouraging them to give. But there's a lot of paperwork involved. You know, it is a very demanding job. And the thing I like as well, once upon a time, the charity steward was an afterthought when the master made his appointments. We have got young charity stewards now, and they bring a new dynamic to it. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. The lodge that I'm in, there's a young guy there, and I just sit there and really enjoy his reports. They're interesting, they're encouraging, they are absolutely brilliant, and that's across the whole province. It's brilliant.
It just shows that the future is there for Lincolnshire when it comes to charitable giving if the young lad wants to join in. That's fantastic to hear. Yeah. One final question is this, if you could have one wish as provincial charity steward, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I have the pleasure and the honour of going and going and marking grants that are given by lodges, given by the Masonic Charitable Foundation. And I just wish the guys could come and be invisible and speak to the people that I speak to. The little old lady at Cleethorpes, suffering from dementia, who, when I spoke to her, said, thank you. On behalf of all those that we support, that you support, that all the brethren support, can I say thank you. You make people's lives better. You make people who are dying those last few days better.
Thank you, Pete.
You got me.
Wow, that really interesting, that, Chris, and what a fantastic interview. What an insight into the charity that we do.
Yeah, he's a clever man, is Pete, and top man. Right, okay. I've got the middle question, Simon, if that's okay. This is Simon Butler, and I want to talk about your current involvement and balancing commitments of being a Freemason. Simon, it is well known that you are in many side degrees. I mean, Freemasonry, I was told when I was started it was just 8 meetings a year, and the wife says, well, that you've used those up in January and February, but you are in quite a number of side degrees. How do you manage your time effectively to fulfill your roles in each of those, as well as craft masonry?
Normally it's not too difficult, but I've got to say this year I've actually just become a warden in the Mark province, which means I'm out, let's say, another 18 to 20 more visits than a normal year. But I've spent most of my time actually visiting the 4 lodges in Grantham, craft lodges, and I've been a great one, I believe, encouraging people to join chapter, which is what we're all encouraged to join. And I think chapter, if you don't mind just turning that for a minute, is something I think it's the most important thing to join first. But like the PGM says, I don't think it's necessary to join straight away. And those, I think, who do join straight away realise that they can't get it too involved, because if you're keen, you probably, when you start becoming inner guard and junior deacon and various commitments like that, and you've already joined chapter, you do notice that some of the ritual in chapter is quite demanding. But having said that, it's one of the most enjoyable things to be a member of, and I certainly recommend people to join it early on. And I joined it I think I joined Mason 85. I joined chapter in 91. And I think that's once my father was in the was the head man. I'm not going to spoil the different titles, but was the master, for want of a better word. I've lost my chain of thought. Where was this?
Don't worry. Sorry. Okay. I mean, are you recommending that a chap that's in his 30s or 40s go through craft, potentially join chapter, but do you think the other side degrees potentially wait until you're nearing retirement?
Well, no. I was actually saying this last night. Actually, that no, I think to finish your third degree ceremony. I mean, the third degree ceremony is a tragedy. I think is my best way of putting it. The ceremony of exaltation. No, not is it? No. What is the word? Is exaltation, Simon? I can't think.
Yeah.
Exaltation. There, you find what is lost, discover what was lost in the third degree, and I think it's important to go through that ceremony. But then, I think you then should concentrate on. And I think you should concentrate on craft. And if you've got more time on your hands, can spare more time, because it's normally only 3 or 4 times a year, and chapter's very cheap as well. It's done that way. Most memberships are 40 to 140 to 160 pound a year. I think it's typical in Lincolnshire, your craft lodge. But most chapters are about £50 a year. So it's not a big strain on your pocket. But I think if you join that for fairly soon after you come in.
Simon, it's not necessarily the money, it's the time. And the original...
but it's 4 times a year. And I thought you keep your membership going. You can keep your membership going. £50 a year is not a major commitment.
Okay, but then, we were all told on craft it's 8 meetings a year. And then all of a sudden they pulled that, but it's the 8 rehearsals. And, then you got the LOIs as well. And then all of a sudden you got this, you got that. It is a hard balance act. Do you think that with the way modern society is that it's going to be harder and harder? And we're not talking about chapter here, but I'm talking about the other side degrees. They're going to find it harder and harder to attract new people into them.
Well, that is a fact that, and if you roughly speaking, if I give you a rough idea, if you don't know, there's about 3,000 craft masons in Lincolnshire, and about 1,500 of them are in chapter. And ideally, we'd like to get that figure up. And all I would say to you is, I recommend, as I said, come back to it. I recommend in the first 3 or 4 years, the most, I think you should join chapter. It completes the third degree, which I believe is a tragedy, and it explains the lost secrets. It's only one degree, and
again, Simon,
4 times a year.
Simon, I was asking the questions, not chapter. I'm talking about the stuff after chapter.
All right.
Like
well, put it this way: in chapter, you've got similar many amount of positions to in craft. You join Mark, which I would say is the next one I would recommend considering. The Mark degree is a bit more light-hearted. You learn very quickly how good it is for society when you join Mark. Meaning, give you some idea about that one. I can tell you now that nearly every province in the country, which is pretty well every county, another way of putting it, received only about 5 years ago a mobile chemotherapy unit, all supported by that was all supported by the Mark degree. I think I get a lot of pride out of being in Mark, and it's a little bit more relaxed, giving you some idea. Instead of just having a junior warden, senior warden, senior deacon, junior deacon, inner guard, you actually have 3 other positions on top of that, which means there's less work involved with each degree you're getting. I find it quite relaxing, Mark. I've always found, because I'm not the best ritualist, I've always found chapter a little bit more challenging, but I get a great amount of satisfaction out of both. But my view is, once again, my recommendation is join chapter. If you've got some spare time on your hands, join Mark. You'll find it enjoyable, and it's a very friendly, happy organisation.
Next one. How do you balance family life? Val's a lovely lady. How do you? And you've got kids and grandkids. How do you balance all this out?
Well, I must admit, as I did say to you, when I first joined, I was in my 30s. I had 3 children then, are all at junior school. I really only went to craft lodges, I don't mind admitting. When the kids got to about senior age, senior school, that's when I joined chapter. But even then, I didn't find ritual that easy, and so constantly I wanted to make sure my craft ritual was good. And I decided really get really involved once I became IPM in my own lodge. Bear in mind, it took me 18 years to go through the chair. Once I got to IPM, I was encouraged to come back to chapter and got involved with it. I had more time on my hands, and eventually, fairly soon after that, I joined Mark. Now, as a semi-retired guy, yes, I'm very dedicated to both those degrees. That's all I can say. But
well, thank you.
My family, let's just say it. I've got grandchildren, but they're not on the doorstep. I see them when I want to see them. They come over to see me quite a lot. But I must admit, most of my family life with children is more involved in the summer, to be absolutely honest. You know, during the winter months, they're at school. Summertime, they come over and we played sports and jumping in the swimming pool and all sorts.
There you go. Good stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, Simon's swimming pool has been on a Duran Duran video, so he's very famous on that one. Right, okay, I'd like to pass the baton on to Simon Noden to talk about about the future of Freemasonry, so with Simon's point of view. So Simon Noden, over to you, my friend.
Simon, nice to see you again. It's always a pleasure to see you. Like Chris said earlier, whenever I'm at an event, you light up the place. It's usually with your bucket as you're walking around raising no end of money for charity. And I must say, you do an absolutely fantastic job at that. You come back and your bucket needs 2 people to carry it because it's brilliant what you do when you see these things. Anyway, we've got the future of Freemasonry, me and you. So, in your opinion, what are the key strategies that you believe are essential for attracting new members into Freemasonry, both in Lincolnshire and across the UK?
Wow. Not ready for that one. Strategy to attract people. Well,
Simon, you could always talk about what we do in Grantham.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, I would seriously say to you, I'm very proud. And in the last few years, I said to you, I just quoted a few minutes ago to Chris about this chemotherapy unit we raised. I went down to Mark I went to Mark Grand Lodge for the very first time in London. And I went there to see some guys from Lincolnshire get Grand Rank honours. Much to my surprise, I look at the summons, right word, more of a, not really summons, more of a agenda, if you like. And one of the first things was on the agenda, and this was in September, and it said we're just given a massive amount of money. Don't quote me on the quantity, but let's say 100 grand plus to the earthquake in Morocco. Now, I know we're all hearing about the problems in Israel and Gaza, but only about 6 or 8 weeks ago, there was talk about this huge thing in it. And we actually, I think whatever date I was down there, it only happened 4 days before. And we had given 100,000 plus to the disaster, which I don't even remember that disaster now, but earthquake in Morocco. And then only a few days later, we gave a massive amount of the. I'm very proud of that, and that's something we don't stand on corners of the street collecting money in buckets and this sort of thing, but we give on a regular basis money, and I'm very proud of that. And I think certainly if a young lad said to me, "What do you gain out of it?" I thoroughly enjoy the fact that we do a lot of good. I know we're one of the biggest givers to charity in the country. That's one thing I think we can plug ourselves on. But there's a lot of good community spirit and comradeship as well. There's another word that we've come up with today, and that is when you join chapter, you become a companion. If you look at companion in a dictionary, I think it says something like traveller together, or more of a togetherness. And I'm just saying to you, as Chris has said, in Grantham alone, we have this curry club, which basically is, we've got guys joining that who don't know anything about masonry, but they initially find these are guys that got a lot in common with, have a drink together, have a meal together, and we talk about all sorts of things. But a lot of it's family life. We try and explain to them that the commitment we give. And I think the commitment changes as you go through life. As I say, when I had young kids, then I went on to, when the kids get older, you get more involved with other things. But I just feel we belong to an organisation which does an awful lot of good.
And Grantham Curry Club is on my bucket list. I keep saying to Chris, you're on my list to come and visit, because I see the photographs he shares on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what a great time them guys are having.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about the Curry Club, it's got, well, its oldest member from my memory is a guy who's 90 some odd, who's is a hospital. Was he Chris? What do I call him? Anyway,
I think the guy that puts you to sleep, not when you have an operation.
Anaesthetist.
I can't say that word.
Yeah, he's lost most of his family. Sadly, his wife died recently. One of his kids had died, but he gets a great amount of fun out of coming out with the younger ones, and we have a great amount of fun with him there. But we also have guys who have not joined Masonry, but then we got a lot of guys who've actually signed up to join, but are waiting on the waiting list to come in to be initiated, who also come. And we've got a guy. Actually, I think we interviewed somebody yesterday, and there was a big, lots of people have said, "Oh, I'll propose him. I've only met him a couple of times, but I'll propose him. He's such a nice guy, and what have you, to meet him." And we all said, "Well, he can't come in till middle of next year." Oh, let's get him in the Curry Club. And so come along to the Curry Club, and I guarantee you, when he comes in, he'll feel a lot more relaxed. So I was like real on tenterhooks when I joined. I mean, I'd heard all about goats and things like that, and frightened me to death. If I even remember a guy actually puking up outside Masonic Hall when he thought he was coming in. But now they come in more relaxed, and then they know quite a few guys. They don't really know what's happening when they get there, but they come. It's just a good way of getting together with some older members, some present younger guys who are enthusiastic, joining members, and all sorts. It's brilliant. Anyway, sorry.
That seems a really effective way to ensure your members remain active and engaged with each other, right from before they join all the way through their career.
Exactly, yeah.
So, how do you perceive the role of technology in the future of Freemasonry, particularly in the context of ritual practice, community engagement, etc.?
Well, I'm one of the worst ones. You saw how long it took me to get on today. I'm a
15
bit of a
minutes late. He was.
I'm a bit of. I got to say, I'm a bit of a technophobe. Probably not the best question you asked me. I think we'll have to keep this one short. all I would say is, I have noticed there seems to be a little bit of difficulty in encouraging people to go to an instruction lodge or an instruction lodge festival. And I think the problem is with that is what Chris brought up. That is, you're told, oh, it's only 8 times a year. You then start getting a bit more enthusiastic or get into it. You're suddenly now 8 rehearsals, and then somebody said, and you stay on for an hour and a half rehearsal. Can you stay on another couple of hours to do an instruction lodge? And then what happens? People drop off coming to rehearsals, and the next thing happens is then we decide to have an instruction lodge another night. And I've even had young guys say, "Hang on a minute, it's now 3 nights a month, 4 nights." And if you've got a young family, or if you're a young man, there are other things, playing sports and what have you. Obviously, when you get in your 40s, that drops off a bit. But yeah, so I don't quite know. That's how I perceive the problem we have anyway. Yeah. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So how do you think Freemasonry, not us, how can remain relevant to the younger generation while still, upholding the core values and traditions?
You're asking some difficult questions here after that, giving a lot of thought to it.
Sorry, you can blame me on this one, Simon.
Go on.
No, because I set the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's come back to that then. Give us another question.
We'll come back to that. I'll tell you what. I'll
ask that last one.
So looking forward to the future now, Simon.
Yeah.
So what do you envisage? What's Freemasonry going to look like in the 21st century? And you yourself, what legacy do you hope to leave behind? And especially, in line with the work for the Lincolnshire Festival.
Well, I think we're very. There's a lot of things happening. That's just I'm involved with the festival myself quite heavily, and all I can say to you is I could probably tell you things that you don't even know about at the moment. I mean, all I'd say is that I think it's going to be we're looking to get younger people more involved. I mean, if you don't know already, on the 1st of June next year, the MCF, which is the charity, the national charity, the MCF, we're not talking about the Lincolnshire branch of the MCF. We're talking about in London, the MCF wanted us to put a ball on the 1st of June. We're putting a ball on it. What most people think is the prime place in the old Lincolnshire, which is the engine yard at the cathedral, no, not the cathedral, at the university.
Yeah,
we're open to attract as many as 300 or 400 people there, and I think we'll end up hopefully having a cross section of people throughout our province, but also a large amount of people throughout the country coming along. And I think that's a move in the right direction. I don't think we've ever done anything like that before. But also the success of, was it last year? Yeah, last year, of the concert at the castle. It was a great success. We were very fortunate with the weather, but we had a lot of entertainment. And I believe that's one of the few things that actually suits a lot of people. And it did suit a lot of people. And I think a lot of people enjoy it. Well, we're doing the same thing again on the 30th of July next year at Charitable Castle. Yeah. Charitable Castle, which I've pinpointed as being the centre of, not centre of the universe, centre of Lincolnshire, or centre of the province, which hopefully, and that's the province with such a big province. I don't know whether any of you know this, but out of the 46 provinces in the country, we're the largest, I believe, in area out of any. And I know that has been ADC in nearly every degree, and also now a warden. It's I had an hour and 3/4 to one lodge meeting last night, so I'll give you some idea. So I spent 3.5 hours last night just driving. Anyway, but all I'm saying to you, these are things I think that attract more people. And to give you some idea, only last week, I went to what I'd refer to traditional ladies' evening, and it's very difficult to change those this day and age, but traditional ladies' evening. And I did notice there's a lack of the younger brethren coming in there, and we've got to try and change them. I think we've got to do something to get the younger wives involved. But I must admit, I know a lot of younger wives go to ladies' evenings. My wife did many years ago, and all we saw was these really old people doing come dancing, and if you did the twist or anything like that years ago, you looked gone out, sort of thing. So I think we've probably got to do some. I mean, I think what I'd like to see is happen something a bit like our curry club. I believe that we could quite easily, Chris, if you got your wife and a few other wives involved, I believe we could do a curry club equivalent for the women, not the same night, obviously, because they're probably looking after children and what have you, but to try to get an organisation going where the younger women get more involved, and then they can organise, which we can go to, if you like, a social function. But I also say to you, the traditional ladies' evenings are not helping bringing younger brethren in. That is
no,
for
they're
sure.
not. No, they're not. No. Well,
I mean, I know a lot of people who are even put off by it big time, actually.
Indeed. Well, Simon Butler, thank you very much for your chat today and your insight. It's been exceptional. I'd like to thank you, Simon Noden, and you, Pete Richardson, for your excellent interview techniques. And lads, we've hit number 5, and we promised the PGM we will get to 21. Okay, it's been like pulling teeth, but we will deliver the 21 for Big Dave, won't we, lads?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, indeed. But Simon, thank you for your fantastic insight today. If you are a Lincolnshire Freemason and you think you've got something interesting to say, then please do drop either Simon Noden, Pete Richardson, or myself a line. We would love to have a chat with you. So you can share your story and your insight to the 3,000 brethren in Lincolnshire. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you on episode 6 of the Lincolnshire Freemason podcast show. See you, apps.